Okay, round two. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right, ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
We made this.
Welcome back to We Are Starfleet, your favorite Star Trek Discovery Companion podcast. I'm Ian Buckley, number one to Captain Mike Slammer here, this week and every week of Star Trek Discovery Season 3 to break down each and every episode for you. And as always, we'll also share and discuss some of the social media conversation going around each episode. Mike, how are you tonight?
Ian, thank you. I am doing well. I got the new iPhone 12 mini.
Ooh,
it arrived yesterday.
All right.
And I love this little device. I gotta say, this is, a lot of people have been saying like, oh, phones are getting too big. They're getting too heavy. And I echo that. I've never liked how big phones were getting. And with the 12 mini, they seem to have figured out how to pack all the horsepower that you want, along with a great camera inside a tiny little lightweight package. And we're living in the future, man. It's here.
Yeah, it's echoes of, you remember a time when cell phone development was all about how small we could get the device, and it was almost comic to some extent, like the degree to which everything was about, like, let's give you the smallest cell phone possible. It's going to be super impressive how tiny it is. You're going to brag to all your friends about how small your goddamn cell phone is, and now we went the complete opposite direction.
How big can you go?
I will say I differ from you in that I love my huge goddamn Samsung, 10 plus. I like a phone that's big enough to defend myself with.
You're going right up against the Klingons with that sucker.
Absolutely.
I mean, not for nothing. I've got an iPhone 8 Plus for work. Mm-hmm. And I am coming from the iPhone XS, and I feel like both of these devices could take a hit from a batleth and still work.
Right, sure.
So, yeah, man. But I'm doing well. It's been a week, as you know, here in the United States.
Yeah,
we're got all this election stuff going on.
Collectively unclenching. Well, I think the sane among us are all kind of collectively unclenching a bit.
Yes. Of course, now comes all the reflection and introspection and whose voice gets loudest and, what do we need to do now? There's still a lot of pending discussions.
We've got a lot of work to do yet in this country.
Yeah.
We'll see what the days ahead bring.
I mean, we have just about as much work to do as Saru and company do, putting together those subspace relays.
Absolutely. Yeah. They've got a task ahead of them.
So, episode 5, Die Trying, directed by Maja Vervillo, teleplay by Sean Cochran, and story by James Duff and Sean Cochran. It aired November 12, 2020. What did you think?
I gotta be honest, I'm gonna sound like a broken record here. As people who've been listening with us can attest, I'm really digging season 3 so far. This is another really solid episode for me. If I had to give it a number, I'd probably give it around probably an 8.5 maybe. Really dug a lot of what this episode was doing.
Very nice. I have to repeat what you said. Yep. We are kind of broken records, but this is another great episode to continue the unbroken streak of great episodes for season 3, in my opinion. And, I'm a little biased, but this is our podcast, and what we say goes.
Yeah.
The common phrase is, a Star Trek series will grow its beard by season 3. And that refers, obviously, to how Riker grew out the beard, and then suddenly the show got better, right?
Sure.
And that was, season 2, we started growing the beard, and then season 3, it became like a staple. And I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say that maybe we need to change that phrase to a Star Trek series grows its braids by season 3.
Yeah. It seems to be whenever there's a substantial shift in hairstyling, there's a substantial shift in tone and consistency of quality with the episodes. We get something. There's something, and Cisco shaving the head too. In DS9, right around season. I think that was season 3 as well. There's something to it, man. It's yet another way in which season 3 of Discovery is trying to feel like Star Trek.
Yep. Agreed. I was glued to this episode basically from start to finish. Loved every bit. For a number, if I had to put it on, it would be maybe 7.5, 8.
Cool. Yeah, right on. I think this was another episode everyone involved can be proud of.
So let's jump into what's happening over on social media.
Yeah, a lot of conversation around this episode. People still loving Jett Reno, as do I, and I know you do as well. At Mark Birkins on Twitter said, simply, Jett Reno gets what Jett Reno wants.
She wants a snack.
She is hungry.
Did she ever get that drink?
I think she probably did. If I had to guess, if not on camera, certainly off, because Jett Reno gets what Jett Reno wants.
At Real Mike Barnett on Twitter said, when Discovery first enters a starbase, he loved that scene because the crew is basically mirroring what every Star Trek fan was doing. He was yelling at the TV to turn the camera around so we can see more ships and more of Starfleet HQ.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a lot of eye candy this episode, but as always, it just left us wanting more.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. Pull on that thread a little bit. Like, we don't need to see every single moment filled in. I feel like
we're gonna get
writers
now that we've reconnected with Starfleet. I think we're gonna get plenty of it ahead. There's no rush.
Exactly. They can build more of these sequences in.
And people are doing more than just appreciating the the visual aspect of the show. Aid Morgan Lay on Twitter said, the casting of this show is perfection. I love the Star Trek Discovery crew. Every episode of this season so far is a keeper. I have to agree.
Yeah. At 3illsweet on Twitter, referencing a photo of guest star David Cronenberg and Michelle Yeoh on set together, they said, quote, "I love my goth parents," quote.
Yeah, there's a lot of love over on Reddit too for the David Cronenberg appearance we got this week. King of Cretans on Reddit said, "I hope David Cronenberg is going to be a part of Section 31 series, because if so, my interest in it just shot up about 1,000%." I have to agree. I think I might have. We've probably talked about this at some point or another. I'm a sort of Section 31 show skeptic.
Same.
And I mean, if David Cronenberg's involved somehow, I got to admit, I'm picking up what he's putting down so far. So
along those lines, user Uncertain Error says, "I wasn't too thrilled with the concept of a Section 31 series, but the more of Georgiou I see, the more I'm looking forward to it. She's fun."
Yeah. And there's a lot of, sort of re-energized fans of Discovery as well. Latius Maximus on Reddit said, "All I know is this season so far has made me feel like a new fan again. All the feels, all the wonder. I love it." A lot of that reflected in social media from what I was trawling through this week.
Wow. Yeah. User Entropic Prof on Reddit says, "Culber is now in contention with Reno as my favorite Discovery character. Best counselor in the fleet in any time period." Yeah,
I like this sort of all-purpose doctor/counselor role that he's filling right now. It reminds me a lot of Bones on TOS, where he was also sort of the therapist of the crew. So
right.
Usually Kirk. I mean, on TOS, it was very much, he was Kirk's therapist, basically. But that sort of dynamic of the shoulder to lean on, not just medically, but also emotionally.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I think I mentioned it either last episode or the prior one, where I think Culber is really starting to grow into this role of the compassionate caretaker for the crew, even though he might not be, the therapist for Discovery. He's turning into that. And not only does the crew need it, as we see throughout this episode, where it's mentioned, we can't split the crew up, they've already been through so much, but real people need attention. They need this kind of love shown them in order to be as best as they can be at their jobs. And considering what Discovery is going through, everyone's got to be at their bestest of best.
Yeah, and it also reflects a shift into the sort of Star Trek future that this show has become. The era that they came from was pre having a counselor as a standard part of.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
It's time for today's Lucky Land horoscope with Victoria Cash.
Life's gotten mundane, so shake up the daily routine and be adventurous with a trip to Lucky Land. You know what they say. Your chance to win starts with a spin. So go to LuckyLandSlots.com to play over 100 social casino-style games for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Get lucky today at LuckyLandSlots.com.
Available to players in the U.S., excluding Washington and Michigan. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.
A crew complement. So now that we're in the far future, I think we're seeing a shift of like, hey, we're starting to recognize that, you know what, we need to address the mental health component of a crew, especially a crew that's undergone such profoundly traumatizing events.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love that continued focus on that aspect of the crew and of Hugh Culber's character.
Agreed. So shall we jump into this deep dive?
Yeah, totally. So I love the fact that we start with Saru's captain's log. It helps it ground the show again as a Star Trek show, and we get Saru doing the duty that we haven't really gotten to hear from him yet.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten to hear a captain's log. He's now really stepping into the shoes, so to speak, and sitting in the chair.
Yeah, the visual of him doing the log while he was, putting his uniform jacket on, and he shrugs his shoulders to bring the jacket into line. Love it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hope and optimism, which has been the recurring theme for this season, with a bit of caution for the unknown. You can tell he's excited, he's there, he's very hopeful, but he's doing, as a captain would, he's a little hesitant, because you are going into the unknown here.
Yeah. I like that they're using the device of a log, be it a personal log or medical log or captain's log, to give it that Trek feel. And it's a classic Trek way of doing exposition. It helps.
Yeah, and the dynamic of just getting right to the story of the episode, as opposed to, we need to warp from point A to point B and then we arrive. This combined with a spore drive gives Discovery an opportunity to just get right to it. Yeah,
the episode starts right off with Disco and crew are entering the sort of the cloaked domain of the 32nd century Starfleet / Federation. They don't really know what to expect on the other side of it, but we basically start the show once we finish Saru's captain's log with the Discovery just barreling towards this, cloaked, shimmering, uncertain, aperture in front of them. And then it opens up, they pass through this cloak and they see what Starfleet looks like in the 32nd century. Yeah.
you're just waiting for that Halo music to start.
Right. It did sort of nail that far future feel. It doesn't feel like something we've seen in Star Trek before. Certainly not from Starfleet.
Definitely. It gave me... It excited me visually. It was absolutely eye candy. It was imaginative. And it reminded me of that moment where you first saw Starbase Yorktown in Star Trek Beyond.
Yeah, that was another good, really good way of, conveying a sense of awe and wonder visually when introducing something new to the audience. I thought they did a good job with this in the limited time they had to do it.
Yeah, the distortion field definitely foreshadows the air of paranoia, and this is a Starfleet, and a lot of people have said this also. Starfleet is going to be on the run in this series. They're going to be on the back foot, playing defense. They're going to be trying to be playing catch up and, more concerned about their own preservation than perhaps exploration and uniting the galaxy.
Right.
And this turns out to be exactly the case, where this distortion field, they're hiding, literally hiding out in space, protecting their own assets, protecting their people, protecting their ships, and really only doing what they have to.
Right. Yeah, we do find a Federation diminished substantially, and it is a, even though they're expecting it, and even though we, the audience, are expecting it, it's a stark contrast to that initial impression that they get of like, wow, isn't all this so impressive? Like, look at how advanced they are. And then, they're confronted with the reality, which is that, they're a shadow. They're a shadow of their former selves.
Yeah. And I have to say, for myself, I find this really compelling. It's interesting, as a story device. And I think it does kind of mirror our current dynamic in the real world, where we may be distrusting of institutions and the institutions are a bit distrusting of us. So there's that marriage between art imitating life and life imitating art.
Yeah, absolutely. And how excited were you to catch a glimpse of the Voyager J?
Ooh-wee. Oh man, all that starship porn.
Right? It was just nonstop. And I'm sure anyone participating in the conversation about this episode online has seen by now that in fact we did get a glimpse of the USS Nog.
Yes, an Eisenberg-class vessel.
Yeah, we know what class that vessel is. We've seen a couple of them now between this episode and People of Earth, and it is a Eisenberg class, as you said. We see the USS Nog, NCC 325070, which I believe, if what I read online is true, and you always have to wonder, is his birth, Aaron Eisenberg's birth date, rendered in stardate format. Yeah.
Very nicely done. Very
really
nicely
cool.
done. That's a
really
nice
cool.
tribute. Yeah. Nog is the first Ferengi to join Starfleet. And generally speaking, they'll only name ships after officers if the officers were of, some renown. So, in my personal opinion, it's possible that Nog was the catalyst for Ferenginar joining Starfleet and joining the Federation. That could be a great reason to, in universe, to give Nog his own ship,
Yeah. One wonders if we'll see any other Star Trek characters name checked even subtly like that. It really was an instance of you really would have only noticed it on screen if you have the ability, as we do these days, to freeze frame, a high def image. It's the sort of thing that probably would have gone unnoticed in years past. It's really fun that they were able to incorporate that.
Yeah, you always have to be on the lookout now in these shows where they are shining light and what they're putting the camera on.
Yeah.
This is not a show to watch while you're half into your phone looking at Reddit.
No, it rewards. It does reward attention.
Yeah, for sure. Especially for longtime Trek fans.
Yeah, for sure.
How could you not love those long sequences, though, with the camera panning around? We got so many beautiful shots of the Discovery herself. Too.
Yeah. Oh, it was, and you know, hard not to get the motion picture vibe too of the long, drawn out starship porn, as you said. I could have done with more of it. I love that sequence in the motion picture.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I've always loved about Star Trek, the designs of the ships have always been eye-catching.
Yeah. Yeah. They've given a lot of food for thought. I don't envy I don't actually, on some level, maybe I do envy the toy makers and the model makers now that have all of these new ship designs to try and figure out. A lot of pretty wild things get called out. Things like detached nacelles,
right?
Things like ships that are primarily holographic emitters. We see that those, sort of donut-shaped ships that we saw only distant views of in the past are, at least some of them seem to be, habitat ships. We see a floating rainforest essentially is in one of them. So a lot of kind of food for Star Trek ship nerd thought.
The happiness of the crew when we're in the bridge, they're taking it all in, and you have the crew members running to the windows to look out and see everything. Definitely echo that sentiment of the one commentator who said, this is all of us. We're all looking.
Right. We're all glued to our screens too.
Yep. I really felt the love to fans, for each other, for the writers, the cast and crew. Like Discovery is just full of this love and attention to everybody.
Absolutely.
And the compassion.
Yeah.
And that's what Star Trek is all about.
Totally. So Saru, Burnham, and Adira Tal are beamed aboard Starfleet HQ, where they meet a new character, Commander-in-Chief of Starfleet, Admiral Charles Vance.
Played by Oded Fehr.
Yes. A wonderful actor and a really interesting role that he's being allowed to carve out in Star Trek Discovery Season 3 now.
Yeah, he's an excellent actor. You might recognize him from The Mummy Returns, Resident Evil Extinction, and one of my favorite films, Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo.
I think I saw that once in maybe high school, probably long enough ago that I don't recall his role in it.
It's time for today's Lucky Land horoscope with Victoria Cash.
Life's gotten mundane, so shake up the daily routine and be adventurous with a trip to Lucky Land. You know what they say. Your chance to win starts with a spin. So go to LuckyLandSlots.com to play over 100 social casino-style games for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Get lucky today at LuckyLandSlots.com.
Available to players in the U.S., excluding Washington and Michigan. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather, now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.
That's okay. If you really want a refresher, just go back and watch, but I'm not going to hold you to it. The command center itself of Starfleet HQ, fans will recognize that this is a repurposed set from Season 1. It was originally the Terran Emperor's Bridge. Then it was rebuilt for Season 2 as a Section 31 ship command bridge. And now the set serves as Starfleet HQ.
That's another very Star Trek thing for this show to do. Show's famous for repurposing sets.
Yeah, and considering they have this giant studio lot now in Toronto, it makes sense to use what you got. And I love that they're going back to more hard sets as opposed to everything's done via green screen.
Yeah, although I'll be interested to see what they do in the future now that they're apparently looking at incorporating some of that technology they use on The Mandalorian.
Yep.
It's going to be interesting to see how set design evolves in the years to come.
It will be very exciting to see. I think they can make more realistic landscapes with that.
Yeah, for sure. I think the away missions are going to get more interesting.
Mm-hmm. So Oded Fair, making his appearance as Admiral Charles Vance, the Commander-in-Chief. Fair has played villain types in the past, so the casting choice is almost purposefully misleading us, and for me it worked because I did not trust him whatsoever. He was very forceful, very reserved, very, oh, you're Starfleet? Then you belong to me. Like there was this big vibe of like, this is going to be the bad guy. Ah, here we go. It's another bad admiral.
Sure. And yeah, Star Trek has that trope too of the badmiral. It seems like he falls more in that category of actually a good guy, but unnecessarily asshole-ish. Star Trek has a little bit of that mold as well. Some admirals fall into that, and Charles Vance seems to be one of those admirals. He's pretty skeptical at first of Saru and Burnham's story.
And you can't blame him.
You can't. At the same time, I felt like at a certain point it reached a level of absurdity. Like he still seemed like after they had ample opportunity to debrief everyone, including Adira Tal, who disappears after this scene, by the way, just out of the episode completely.
She gets sent to medical for diagnostics, and that's the last we see of her for the duration of the episode.
And it seems like she'd be uniquely situated to say, like, yeah, no, these guys are legit. Chill just a bit. Just chill just a bit. I always I'm always a little bit confounded by characters who make that sort of decision, because it's like, you have a choice here. You don't have to do this in this specific way.
Right.
This is a choice. On some level, you're a human being making a choice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But he's very skeptical, and he's concerned that their travel through time has violated the temporal accords, something which apparently the Federation agreed to following the temporal Cold War, which at some point turned into a bit of a hot war. And that was apparently resolved with something called the Temporal Accords. We don't really learn much more about that, such as who they were signed with and whether anyone after the burn is still even enforcing them. He seems very concerned about it, but we don't really learn much more about that.
Right. He does very forcefully mention that the Discovery's presence here in the future violates the Temporal Accords.
Right.
So I am very curious to see where that line is going to take this story now that, cat's out of the bag. Starfleet has a time-traveling ship. Not that it actively does it, but it came from the past. So how is that going to affect whatever treaties are in play?
Yeah, he seems really paranoid in general. So I wonder how bad that war was. And whether now that we've had multiple name checks of either the Temporal War or the Temporal Accords, whether we're actually going to see it play a larger role in the unfolding story.
It remains to be seen. We also get a name drop of some bad guys here.
Yeah, more
the Emerald Chain.
Yeah, more of this Orion-Andorian alliance that we saw in the first episode of the season.
Did I call it or what? Way back when I said, Michael Burnham and Cleveland Booker, as they were running through, they pissed off all those guys. That ain't the last we've seen of them.
Nope. Yeah, this syndicate seems to be a force in the galaxy. Whether it's the exact same outfit that was what we saw in the first episode or not, it seems like there's a bit of an enduring Orion-Andorian alliance throughout the quadrant.
Right. There was a line in the season premiere where Booker said, your bosses aren't going to like this. And then I think they name dropped the boss, Osira, in the Sigma Draconis system, which, I might add, fans might recognize from one of the most amazing episodes of the original series. And it represents the pinnacle of Star Trek writing.
Yes, it's actually the episode that I recommend people watch first when they're checking in with the original series.
Absolutely. It's one of the most amazing, mind-blowing episodes, Spock's Brain.
That episode. It's been a long time, to be fair.
It has been a long time.
But I think it should remain a long time.
It should, yeah. That one is pretty etched out of my conscious forever.
Yeah.
Also, important to note that where they name drop the Sigma Draconis system, that's located in the Alpha Quadrant. So as far as we know, Starfleet Headquarters is still in the Alpha Quadrant.
Yes, and we have also a sense of the scale of the Federation now. The Federation seems to be comprised of only 38 homeworlds, down from what we learn was a peak of 350. Which I believe is up from, I think it's around 150 in the kind of Picard era, just to give you a sense of the expansion. And it's clear that these people still bear the psychic scars of this catastrophe that occurred 120 years prior.
Yeah. There's a lot of concern, a lot of worry, and a lot of since they can't go faster than light, everything is now how many months away is it?
Yeah, it's a little unclear exactly what Starfleet space travel consists of these days.
Yeah, we don't see any starships doing any actual starshipping.
Yeah,
so
presumably they still have some. They are still doing some traveling at warp, just like everyone else. But with the resources limited the way they are, I'm sure we'll learn more. But I wouldn't be surprised to learn that travel is rationed almost, at least as far as where it necessitates dilithium or other resources.
So Adira Tal gets sent away to medical for diagnostics, but not before it's made very clear by the Admiral that, hey, listen, the nature of the symbionts, Senetal and I were familiar, but you and I are not, which I thought was a very good way of immediately removing Adira Tal from the equation as a story device to kind of force the relationship to come together a different way, which is where we lead to our Keeley refugee storyline.
Yeah, so the Keeley are an alien species that have encountered some sort of disease that the Federation Starfleet is trying and failing so far to diagnose and treat, which ends up catalyzing a story thread that plays throughout the rest of the episode.
Yes. This really sets up the opportunity for Discovery and her crew to prove themselves, and setting it up so that they all have to work together to solve the problem with the disease and to cure it is not only very on brand for 2020, but it's another classic Star Trek moral of the story.
Sure. Yeah. And the reason that they have to prove themselves is because Admiral Vance is basically steamrolling over Saru and Burnham after their debrief and telling them that, in fact, their ship is Starfleet's and their crew belong to Starfleet, and he will reassign ship and crew as he sees fit, no questions asked. And so Saru and Burnham are confronted with the necessity of proving themselves before they get split up potentially forever.
Yeah, I almost wonder if perhaps Admiral Vance threatened to split up the crew only to see what the reaction would be. Like, it's a calculated threat to kind of, push. Because in his thought, he's still trying to reconcile all this brand new information that he's receiving versus what he knows. And this seems like a very calculated tactic to see if, if they are enemy time agents, of course they're going to fight against this and they're going to do what they can. And, if I say this, how will they react? So maybe not necessarily like he was always going to follow through on it unless he felt he had to, but it was, just a quick way to see what the reaction would be.
Yeah, I could see that. I could especially see that coming from the character that we meet now, too, interrogating Emperor Giorgio, played by David Cronenberg, the sort of mysterious agent of the Federation, who appears and we're immediately intrigued as he dives into this debrief with Giorgio.
Yeah. Before we jump to that, I want to quickly go back to Admiral Vance debriefing, because there was a couple of things I noticed that I had to write down. We do get confirmation that subspace relays went down, and that's a quest, right? Like, that's an actual thing that Discovery can do right now.
Absolutely, yeah. They can immediately go from location to location conducting repairs.
Yeah. I mean, just putting together the communications network and bring it all back online would be a huge benefit to Starfleet, the Federation, and the galaxy as a whole. Yes.
It also comes with it, I'm sure, attendant risks, such as letting people in the galaxy at large know that there is now this new ability that the Federation has to restart their communications relays, and they're doing things that seem like they shouldn't be possible.
They shouldn't be able to do.
And that's going to start drawing some attention for sure, I think.
Yeah. I will say that the other thing I noticed in this debriefing scene here with the Admiral is it's right about here that I was getting a little tired of the old Michael Burnham attitude. And I can tell that, she's frustrated because she knows she's right, but she feels the need to have to prove it to this stranger. And she's really stepping out of line here.
Yeah, it's something that Saru, it struck me as another way that she's clearly showing the signs of the year that she spent basically free has caused her, at least her Starfleet decorum, to kind of regress a bit, which Saru calls her out on, and a couple of times in the episode. And basically ends by making the point with her, like, look, you're making my job harder too. It would be one thing if it was just affecting you. Like, you can continue to act in whatever way will impact you as much as you want. Like, don't, but have at it if that's what you want to do. But this starts to affect me at a certain point. Do you have to recognize that?
Right. And that comes to a head later on in the episode. And, just to be clear, I don't really want to see Burnham, fall in line and, shut up and just do nothing. But I kind of want to see that, she knows better. I mean, she served with Captain Pike.
I think the show, one of the threads, one of the arcs for her is going to be finding a happy balance. At least I hope, because I think it still needs to be found.
Balance is something that Michael's been struggling with since season 1, episode 1.
Yeah, it's sort of, she's metronomed back and forth between the extremes of sort of, I was raised on Vulcan, these are the Vulcan teachings that I follow, and really embracing her human side. And likewise, her sort of behavior in Starfleet fluctuates a bit.
Yeah. When Saru is dressing down Michael in the ready room, discussing what they just went through, it's very clear in Michael's language that she's no longer thinking of the collective good of the crew, and Saru calls her out on it. And the first thing he says to her after she's done, on her little rant, he repeats her, "Get our hands on."
Yeah.
And he goes right in. It's like, we will not violate a direct order as the first act after reuniting with the Federation.
Well, I think that's the thing. She certainly sees herself as part of, Discovery and the crew, but I don't think she yet feels herself as part of the Federation or Starfleet at large, which is why she bristles. And Saru does agree with her that, the Starfleet they both left behind wouldn't have responded to them in the way that this guy responds. I think that's why we as audience members sort of mistrust him too, is because they are like, this doesn't feel like the Federation that we know. And yet, he correctly, calls her out on, like, her first solution, her plan A can't be, let's rob these guys. Let's rob these guys. Let's straight up rob these dudes. There's no thinking about what the implications of that would be long term. They just rejoined the Federation. What do you think they're going to do? Like, what do you think like, you just acknowledged that this isn't the Federation you left behind, which barely tolerated your shenanigans. What makes you think the 32nd Federation you just saw is going to tolerate tolerate them anymore. No. And he calls her out on it.
Yep. It's a good moment from Captain to Commander.
Yeah. It illuminates what their dynamic is going to be going forward. I like that she pushes him in ways that I think he needs to be pushed, even though I think she needs to be he tells her she needs to be a little bit more tactful about with whom she expresses her thoughts and the manner in which they're expressed. But at least with him, I really like that they have this really open communication style with each other, and that she challenges him and he challenges her right back. I think it suits them each well.
It's a really good dynamic, and it's not one of those traditional command elements. It's more of a, oh man, I mean, they've been through so much together, so it's more of it is a family relationship. It
is. If you were going to draw a comparison to past treks, I think it's probably most similar to sort of Janeway Chakotay, Captain First Officer. They were pretty frank with each other at several points and disagreed with each other and weren't shy about it.
Yeah. There was quite a bit of that. The whole debriefing that we go through with the future Federation holograms doing the actual debriefing, it's a lot of cuts here and there. There's a lot of quick lines. Stamets appears, and I know that the show was written before COVID-19, but Stamets saying, "Yes, I am essential personnel."
Yeah.
Like it just
the term essential personnel kind of popped out. Yeah.
We
had a nice montage of the crew being debriefed by these Federation security holograms.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Jett Reno asking for snacks. We do have another reference to the Emerald Chain, which I think they're going to be setting up as the big bad for the next half of the season.
Yeah, I think the fact that we're getting Emerald Chain and Temporal Accords in the first episode and now this episode, I don't think it's an accident that those things are getting brought up again and again. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that as if not the big bad of the whole season, then at least of the next sort of few episodes.
Right. So we got to dive into David Cronenberg as the interrogator with Empress Georgiou, because this scene had me going. I watched it. I probably watched it 3 or 4 times. Yeah,
they're great together. This mysterious let's start off with what happens at the beginning of the scene. So, yes. Georgiou is being interrogated, much like the rest of the crew were, by security holograms, with the distinction that her interrogation is being overseen by this mysterious man. Portrayed by
in glasses.
In the far future, where glasses are not necessary at all. They're clearly an affectation, which he admits. And he's overseeing this interview and indeed has to conduct it himself because Emperor Georgiou blinks the holograms out of existence. She blinks at what she says is some sort of harmonic resonance frequency that causes the holograms to basically shut themselves down.
Right. They go into a feedback loop.
Yeah. It stretches credulity a bit for me. That wasn't.
Oh yeah.
On the one hand, it's really cool. It's something we've not seen before. But it took me out of that scene a little bit, at least at first, because I was kind of going like, how on earth do you have any idea how to do this to any hologram, much less ones in the 32nd century? Like, what are we
exactly?
Like, you just got here. Why? Like, you're telling this guy to upgrade his software? Like, I get that Emperor Georgiou is a badass, but I'm looking forward to what they might be setting up of her being a little bit out of her element for once, and without all of the answers. I was getting a little bit overtired of her just having all the answers for everything all the time and always being 10 steps ahead of everybody. I think it'll be a more interesting dynamic for her to be confronted with unknown.
It's time for today's Lucky Land horoscope with Victoria Cash.
Life's gotten mundane, so shake up the daily routine and be adventurous with a trip to Lucky Land. You know what they say. Your chance to win starts with a spin. So go to LuckyLandSlots.com to play over 100 social casino-style games for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Get lucky today at LuckyLandSlots.com.
Available to players in the U.S., excluding Washington and Michigan. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
For the first time.
I'm with you on that. I'm not sure how I feel about the new technobabble surrounding the biology within Terrence. I don't need to have the mirror universe explained away with a biological component. And, Georgiou literally says that. She's like, you can't tell me, you just made this up. Like, I'm nasty, I'm wicked, I'm the worst of it. So,
yeah, what did you?
It's not something.
Did you take them at their word? Do you take that at face value? Do you think there actually is some biological difference, amongst Terrans, essentially making them a different species of human? Or do you think that was a lie to get at, an angle to get at her?
I think it could go either way. I'm kind of 50-50 on whether or not it is a true statement or not. And I think it's important to note that this scene, when they cut away from it, it cuts to sickbay. And as they cut away, there is the Trauma Unit to Medbay 6 announcement. And Georgiou hears that, and, it registers to her. She learns so much without even needing to be in a room, right? She's very clever. She's very crafty. She's always listening, paying attention. She sees things that we don't see, which is why I can accept her shutting down those holograms in such a quick fashion, because she figures it out. She's right there, and it doesn't work right away. She's blinking for a little while. So it seems to be setting up that she's smarter than your average Terran, for sure. She's nasty, she's wicked, and I don't think that there is a real biological component. I think it's a fake out. But like I said, it's 50-50. It could be a real thing. I hope it's not, because I think that would just be kind of a cop-out, in my opinion. I think it's more interesting to be like, the mirror universe are full of Terrans, and it's a mirror. Like, we don't need to have it explained,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm a little curious about what the relationship that they have with the Terrans now is, because we also learn in their interactions that, at least, again, if you take him at his word, David Cronenberg's character tells Georgiou that there hasn't been a mirror universe crossing in over 500 years. One wonders what sort of research has been done on Terrans in the last 100 if there hasn't been a crossing in 500. But I'm guessing that there's probably genetic samples that have been stored, just like, we have a seed ship in this episode. It's not inconceivable that we have Starfleet HQ has, genetic samples on record. Yeah. Nevertheless, it is interesting that there are, standard protocols for interrogating Terrans, and yet we, haven't had a crossing in 500 years. That's interesting to me. I wonder how honest he was being with her about all of this.
Yeah, and there's a lot of I kind of feel like the interrogator was being truthful and honest.
I do too.
But I do feel that there is a lot of misdirection going on. He is clearly outsmarting her at every level, and he's letting her think that she's at his level. Like, that's the impression that I get.
Yeah, I do take him at his word, which is why I find the apparent paradox is interesting. Because I don't really know where they're going with this, but I'm really interested to see where they go with this.
During the interrogation sequence, Georgiou says, "I will answer your questions if you answer mine," and he agrees. And she asks two questions: who's in charge, and what is the burn, right? And he chooses to answer, or he says, well, that's two questions. She says, pick one. And he chooses to answer the second question: what is the burn? But he can't. There's only multiple theories out there. I thought it was interesting that he chose specifically not to answer who was in charge. Yeah.
It could also be that he picked the more interesting to answer. And I think, it's interesting that we keep getting this same, despite this guy clearly knowing probably more than anyone else in Starfleet knows about everything that's going on in, the quadrant. Even he has, no particular, horse in the race. He's like,
Sure.
we don't know what caused the burn, and it's kind of beside the point now. That now so much time has gone on that a lot of them have kind of moved on from trying to figure it out. And it's likely that we'll see Michael's renewed interest in figuring out the burn kind of galvanize the hunt for answers among the rest of the Federation.
Yes. So let's get to the meat of the adventure of this episode. Yeah. Discovery has to set out to the Federation Seed Vault ship, and there is a piece of beta canon, a novel, which actually involves the Mirror Universe. I can't remember the name of the story, but the Federation actually had a seed vault on, I believe it was Pluto, and that's where Mirror Kirk was hiding in that novel the whole time.
Okay.
It's one of those crossover novels,
sure.
And Prime Kirk, he crosses over, and they're like, oh, we've been trying to find our Kirk, the Terran Kirk, and he's hiding on Pluto, and he's building like a whole rebel thing to come back over, and Mirror Picard was in it. Mirror Worf was. It was a weird. You know how those novels shake
Sure.
out. Yeah, but I thought it was cool that they brought the Seed Vault ship into play. Although putting it on a ship seems risky considering everything that's going on.
Yeah, interesting that the Tikov or a prior iteration of it survived the burn. Apparently. Interested to learn exactly how.
Yeah.
But
just one of those hand wave things. You just got to take it for what it is.
Sure.
Yeah.
Engines were offline, whatever. But it is of note that we do have a seed vault ship, which is something that does mirror something that exists on Earth. Norway has a seed vault, samples of at least most of the plant species on the planet Earth, and we learned that the USS Tikov is a seed vault for the Federation, that it has samples of all known plant species from around the known galaxy.
Yes. So getting to the Seed Vault ship is a product of the Discovery, not the ship, but the actual, we just learned this, Discovery, that the virus that the Kili refugees are suffering from, the disease, is as a result of having consumed mutated vegetation on a planet. So unfortunately that planet, it no longer has the plant that could give the cure, but thankfully the Seed Vault ship does have a sample of that genetic material that they need. Unfortunately, it's 5 months away from Starfleet Headquarters. So Admiral Vance actually orders his team to get the Discovery ready to fly in an hour, put a Federation team on it. I want all of our scientists working on this right now. We're going to go. And that's where Michael jumps in and she goes, hey, wait a second. We're here. You have a crew ready to go. You have a team ready to fly. And you could tell that there's some button heads going on, and Vance is not interested at all in relinquishing control of the Discovery back to its crew just yet. And I think Captain Saru should get some real damn good credit for being the mediator between these two forces of nature, if you will. He allows Admiral Vance to remain in control of the mission, but Commander Burnham gets to take the helm with Vance's own team kind of shadowing Discovery. So they get to see the crew in action. They get to verify that Discovery crew are who they say they are, while at the same time, Saru stays behind at Starfleet Headquarters with Admiral Vance.
Yeah, Saru remains back with Vance as an act of good faith, and Burnham takes Disco to the Tikov. And when they arrive, they're confronted with an ion storm, which looked great. It was cool to see.
Yeah, it's
something
great.
That's been referenced in Trek a lot. And maybe it's been visualized on screen in the past, but never like this, obviously. So we get a lot of, again, another really nice, visual of the Discovery approaching this ion storm in space. Really gives you a sense of scale of space and the ion storm itself. With Discovery, as large as it is approaching it was pretty damn cool.
Yeah. Ion storms in the Star Trek universe are one of those. It's a good use of canon and lore. Everyone knows that the ion storms, you don't mess with them.
Right.
Anything can happen depending on what needs to happen for the story, and none of it will be good.
Yeah, exactly. So we get a nice sequence here where Detmer has to face the effects of her recent trauma, and she, perseveres through those. And this minute
they got to get the Discovery real close to the storm for the tractor beams to work.
They have to take this disco in close enough for the tractor beam to work. They do. They get the tractor beam on. The Tikov gets pulled out of the ion storm. It's a really cool sequence of the entire bridge crew working together. Really nice showcase of their teamwork.
It is. It's a good show off, and Lieutenant Willa, who is Admiral Vance's right hand woman, if you will, she's not at all prepared. Number one, for the spore jump.
Sure.
She throws a little snark. She calls Discovery a fossil, and the whole crew just smiles, knowing what's coming. And they spore jump in, and now Willow gets to see what the crew can actually do. And it's every time the camera pans back to her, you can tell oh, these guys are the real deal. Okay.
Yeah, and it's unclear to me what sort of experience Willow even has out in space. Certainly confronting things like ion storms. She's clearly impressed by the way the crew perseveres through that.
Yeah. Commander Michael Burnham gets to lead a proper away mission in this as well.
Yeah, we get an away mission too. There's tons of stuff here that's like basic Trek red meat for the fans. It's great.
Yep. And it really continues the streak of self-contained, low-stakes problems that present challenges that are not insurmountable. They require teamwork. They require science. They require, the ship doing something specific while the crew, on the away mission actively pursue whatever it is. So it's good. It's really nice.
Yeah, they raise emotional stakes at times when potentially in seasons past they might be raising the sort of overarching galactic story stakes at the same point in the season.
Yeah. So should we take this time now to talk about Commander Nan a little bit?
Yeah. So on the away mission we have Burnham, Culber, and Commander Nan, who is a Barzan, and we learn that the Tikov is in the charge of a family of Barzan. Actually, the Federation takes turns. Members of the Federation take turns minding the seed vault, and the current crew of the Tikov, as it were, is a Barzan family. So Nan is understandably eager to make contact with them.
Yeah, it's first I want to say it's a nice bit of universe building where you have the Barzans confirmed joining the Federation in the future, and Commander Nan is the first Barzan to join Starfleet. And we learn in this episode through her dialogue that her family didn't want her to join.
Yeah,
and apparently it was it was a contentious decision, and Nan misses home. She never thought she would get to see it ever again, and she wishes she had before they had jumped to the future, but that simply wasn't the case. So it's a really nice nice bit of arc that we get for a character that was introduced in season 2, episode 1. And Nan stayed with the Discovery's crew after leaving Captain Pike's command. And I was always a little unclear why she left her own time and her own ship to travel with Disco into the future. But, she anticipated not even able to go home. So it kind of makes sense now, to bring that full circle. Here's this crew member who didn't have to come along for the ride. And we also learn why she felt so compelled to come, because Commander Nan was the one who blew Arium out the airlock.
Yeah, it's not the first time she's mentioned, Arium as being the undergirding reason why she stayed with Disco. If I'm being honest, it's probably for me the weakest part of what was otherwise a really strong, I thought, emotional arc for her. I never really quite bought the Arium justification of it. Maybe it's a reflection of what we I think both saw it at the time being a problem with the Arium story of, this is a character we didn't really get a chance to connect with a whole lot before we were asked to say goodbye to them and reckon with the impact that loss had on the rest of the crew. And as a result, we're just kind of taking the crew's word for it, I think, more often than we should be when they talk about how that character's loss impacted them. And so, I get it. I just, for me, it was the one part of her story that didn't really move me. That said, I thought I really liked her obvious connection to her culture and her past and her planet, and they discover a hologram display of the family. Dr. Addis, the doctor in charge of the seed vault, and his wife and 2 children are they're caught playing I think just sort of hanging out on this hologram that's playing, and no sign of the family yet themselves, but this hologram is playing, and Nan is just struck by it. She's clearly entranced by it and is feeling homesick.
Yeah, it was really nice to see also the visual cues with the seed vault ship having been attuned to the Barzan atmosphere. So Commander Nan did not need her breathing apparatus, but Culber and Burnham both did, and you see that they have these new hollow apparatus surrounding them, which then suddenly dissipate, and the breathing apparatus takes over. So it's an interesting, it's a pretty interesting use of technology, and a bit of a cue that yes, humans have to be, supplemented with, some kind of concoction whenever they are, going off world or from one atmosphere to another. So it's a nice bit of sci-fi that I like seeing. And that's what I always look for in these kinds of shows.
Yeah, I love the little detail of now that Nan doesn't have to breathe, her through her gas, sort of apparatus on her face. Yeah, her eye color changes to its natural color, and we get to see that for the first time. And she's breathing the air of her homeworld for what she, she never thought she would again. Exactly. She never thought she would again. And it's, that part of it, of this story, I was moved by. I thought that
agreed.
Nan's connection to her past and her desire to remain connected with her past, I thought really worked in this episode for me.
Mm. Yeah. A lot of great exposition surrounding the Barzan philosophy. We learn in this episode that the Barzans, they don't have very rich lives. They don't have a lot of resources, so they always have to be careful about what they're using. And parents will make overt sacrifices for their children and to try and give them everything. So that comes into play here with the story of Dr. Addis, where something happened to the family. There was this catastrophic event. And we find the family of Dr. Addis in cryo storage. They are deceased, but Dr. Addis is, he has put them inside cryo storage, and he's hoping to find some kind of a cure to their being.
Yeah, we learned that the Barzan don't quite have the same concept of death. They don't go into too much detail, but it seems clear that he, there are cultures on Earth which view death much more as much more of a continuation of life, and some cultures will dig their dead back up after having been buried for a while, and throw a party, and it's a whole thing. It's just this is an extension in a sort of a Star Trek-y way of here's a culture, an alien culture, non-human culture that explores different concepts of death being final or not, and we see it sort of taken to an extreme here where this ship was hit, we learn, by coronal mass ejection, and Dr. Addis's family were fatally irradiated, tragically, and he was immediately confronted with the cold, stark reality of their deaths, but being culturally unwilling to accept that. He was caught in this sort of emotional limbo and a physical limbo too, because when that coronal mass ejection hit the Tikov, he was in mid-transport into or out of the seed vault, and when the coronal mass ejection hit his transport beam, he went out of phase with reality. So he is trapped in this limbo, both literally and metaphorically, between life and death, and the Discovery manages to pull him out of it.
Yeah, it's an interesting use of the thematic element of being unable to accept reality when you are phasing in and out of it, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's and he can't accept his family's death. He can't accept that he is also not fully human or fully Barzan anymore. And it takes the collective efforts of the Discovery's crew to bring him back into reality. And after successfully doing so, in order to open the seed vault that they need the genetic sample from, there's a code word that has to be used.
Yes.
And Dr. Addis has the code word. So Michael has to calm him down, get him to understand that, hey, listen, we're very sorry for your family, but there are, hundreds of thousands of other families that are going through this right now, and you can save them. You can prevent their suffering that you feel right now. And it's a good moment where Michael gets to flex some command muscle. She gets to flex a little bit of that empathy streak that she has. And it's a lovely closing to this part of the story here. And while I didn't necessarily care for the Barzan family or how everything resolved around it, I did like this moment because it shows that Michael isn't all just gung-ho and we need to go and pilfer the Federation archives and we need to go get the seeds right now and we need to solve it. It shows that she can slow down, take a moment and see what's in front of her, and she realizes what must be done, right?
Yeah,
so
she also uses her. I like that she uses her blunt communicative strategy to good effect, to positive effect, where rather than undercutting Saru in front of an admiral, she can be really direct with this doctor when that's exactly what he needs to hear. It's the right thing to say in the right situation, the right way to say it in the right situation. And her directness serves all of them well because Dr. Addis responds to it and is able to engage with the seed vault and reality. And they're able to get the MacGuffin. They're able to get the seed that they need, and all will be well.
All will be well, with the exception of the fact that Dr. Addis is also irradiated, and without immediate treatment, he will also die.
That is the downside for him, unfortunately.
That is the downside. And in order to keep the seed vault going, he has to stay. But instead, Commander Nan makes the decision to stay behind.
Yeah, well, we get a classic Star Trek ethical dilemma here. Culber wants the doctor to accept the reality that if he doesn't get treatment, he will die. And he can't die because he needs to watch over the seed vault. And if there's no one there to do that, the seed vault will die, and that's unacceptable.
Yeah.
And Burnham basically says, "Here, go work on the cure for the Keeley. I'll take care of this." And the dilemma at essence here is: do we respect this man's cultural decision or cultural beliefs around death? To override the need for, especially now after the burn, the Federation to retain this invaluable seed vault. And Nan, much like Saru, found a sort of a third path earlier in allowing, that would allow Discovery and her crew to go on this mission.
Yeah.
Nan finds the third path, volunteering herself, like Saru did earlier, to stand watch for the remainder of the Barzan watch on the seed vault, and then return the bodies of Dr. Addis and his family back to Barzan and go home.
Yeah, it's a nice closeout to her story, and while I don't think Commander Nan will come back, I would love to see her again.
Yeah,
I thought that she added quite a bit of flavor to the crew, as chief of security.
She did, and it's I am left feeling a little bit like I did with Ariam, although to a much lesser extent of, it's too bad that we got this episode we learned the most about her, and it's the episode where we're saying goodbye.
Yeah,
but I'm disinclined to think that we won't see her again. I think we will, maybe not this season, but there's certainly no reason for her to not come back. Especially if the goal of reuniting the Federation and restoring it to some measure is achieved. I can't imagine that their paths wouldn't cross again somehow.
That's true. And I mean, in the real world, we can see that the cast is growing and choices have to be made about who gets the screen time. But the way that this actor was written off the show, it was a beautiful and personal decision. It wasn't some really heavy-handed sacrificial moment.
A really good send-off and a positive send-off. It's not like she was sending herself to her death. She was able to go home. We could be excited for her as sad as we were to say goodbye. And a really beautifully framed last image of her as she watched the Discovery leave.
Yeah. Getting back to Starfleet HQ, we are able to save the Keeley refugees, of course, because we black alert Spore Drive in, and Culver delivers the remedy that's needed, and it's we save the day. Discovery saves the day.
It's a proof of concept
and proves themselves.
Proof of concept for Disco and her crew.
Yeah, definitely. And let's talk about the music here. There is an underlying melody that seems to be a common thread amongst the galaxy, a kind of lullaby that seemingly everyone knows.
Yeah, so it was sort of a throwaway almost at the end of last episode with Adira playing this lullaby that she learned in the past from one of her past hosts, and the same lullaby is heard in that hologram we talked about earlier of the Barzan family on the Tikov. That lullaby.
Yeah, one of the Barzan girls is humming the lullaby.
And Michael is struck by that. Now, I don't know necessarily how far apart whoever Adira learned the lullaby from, and the Barzan homeworld is. Maybe there's a perfectly reasonable explanation for why they both knew the same thing. But it stretches Michael's capacity to believe in coincidence, and so she is seemingly beginning to put together that there might be something to this musical motif that these very disparate cultures seem familiar with.
Yeah. There are theories coming in about harmonic resonance and crystals interacting, which would be a little bit of a. I don't know if Giorgio blinking at the right harmonic resonance rate is foreshadowing this, but there it is.
Sure, yeah, and it's hard not to make that connection when you're dealing with something like music. The idea of just the right frequency being able to shatter glass, for example, is something we're all familiar with. So yeah, whenever you're thinking of this music, and sound waves, permeating throughout the galaxy, something along those lines, some sort of frequency, causing dilithium or affecting dilithium crystals is it's an intriguing notion to think about. It still, begs the question, especially if you're talking about something as slow moving as sound waves, how something could happen simultaneously all over the galaxy. But certainly the idea of there being some sort of frequency that could cause some sort of effects on dilithium crystals, I think it's an interesting theory.
Yeah. I think we're going to learn quite a bit in the next few episodes here. We've proven to Admiral Vance now that we are a crew and we work together and Discovery is capable. So I like that there's a little bit of his coldness factor breaks a little bit and, allows himself to have more of a human moment with Saru. it's good to see that he's not the bad role.
Yeah, the mask kind of comes down, and we see that he's an overly cautious man who, like probably all of the Federation, bears a lot of the scars of trauma as a result of having to be on the defensive for the last 120 years.
Yeah,
or at least,
I don't
feeling
him
like you have
job.
to be on the defensive, which is sort of Saru's point at the end of the season. You have this new tool, this new way of engaging with the universe that you didn't have access to in the for the last 120 years. Now you do, use it. You don't have to just be looking down. You can be looking up.
Yeah, which is Saru's whole point, right? Where he's telling the story of how humanity came out of the Dark Ages, where the Renaissance painter Giotto discovered the third perspective.
Yeah.
Very cool. I was not necessarily aware of that and had to study up on it.
Yeah, my AP art history days are well behind me.
Yeah, same. It was a nice, as usual, right? Like, something from Earth's history is always referenced when it comes to the galaxy-spanning Federation.
Yeah. And it's a really optimistic note to wrap the episode on.
Definitely. Although we do have to talk for a moment about
the little stinger we get with that moment we get with Georgiou and Burnham in the hallway.
That's right.
Yeah, we see Georgiou basically staring at a bulkhead from what it looks like. Burnham approaches her.
Yeah, talk about unsettling.
Yeah, mentions her, says her name a couple of times, and then Georgiou just sort of blinks back on as if she had been deactivated somehow. And
right?
is back to her catty self and walks off. But clearly something is up with her.
Something is up. Is it a brainwashing? Is she a hollow
She's
duplicate
a Cylon.
to replace her on the crew?
I think the musical motif made it clear that she's a Cylon.
There it is. She's a Cylon.
We're having the Ronald D. Moore crossover we never thought we'd get.
I'm telling you, man, season 3 of Discovery has got Star Trek Voyager all over it. All over it.
So we end with them, at least on that note. We don't know what's going on with Georgiou. We do know that Michael thinks something is up with this musical note, and she and Saru agree that she needs to cool her jets, especially in front of the Admiral from now on.
Yep.
And they look out and up optimistically towards what lies ahead.
Yeah, I really like the close to this episode. It was a nice, we got to talk a little bit of business, and then boom, we close with the hopefulness and the optimism that this season is building upon. Great episode. I love where things are going. It's really setting up the next half of the season. Standout moments. I gotta say, the entire scene with David Cronenberg interrogating Michelle Yeoh.
Agreed.
This is the first person in the Prime universe we've seen that could get under the Emperor's skin, right? And ignoring the whole idea of shutting down the holograms and why Georgiou would know this, specifically in the 32nd century, this scene really jumped out at me as one of the best.
Yeah, once she dispatched the holograms, this was an amazing sequence that she had with them. I mean, I could have watched a whole episode of this, which I think got a lot of people talking online about the potential of, could this be what they do with the Section 31 show? It's not, in fact, Georgiou's return to the past, but her incorporation into a 32nd century future.
Yes. I wonder if Section 31 will pick up, the show will pick up here in the 32nd century.
Yeah, that remains to be seen.
Yeah. If they've got David Cronenberg coming back in, that's impressive, because that's in my opinion, that's a big name to bring in.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I love more Cronenberg on the show. I was not expecting that at all. I was delighted.
So what else from this episode really jumped to you?
I think what kept jumping out at me was less a specific moment, other than certainly Discovery's entrance into sort of new Starfleet. and the aforementioned Cronenberg and Michelle Yeoh scene we've been talking about. The thing that really stood out to me about the episode was how many of the classic Trek tropes I noticed throughout. Not in a bad way, just if anything, really in a delighted way. I like that we opened with a captain's log. I like that we had an away team on a vessel full of dead people. That we had a doomed survivor on a ship whose fate is revealed through personal logs. We had transporter accident as the cause of the problem. And we had sacrifice, meaningful sacrifice at the end of the episode to, again, sort of thread the needle and find a third way to solve the seemingly intractable ethical solution or ethical problem. Oh, and of course the sort of asshole-ish admiral trope that we mentioned too.
Of course. I did not care for Lieutenant Willa as a character. Just totally flat, uninteresting. And I know that, her character was there just to serve a purpose, but without any kind of personality, it felt just kind of like, all right, let's get on with the story here.
Yeah, it felt a little flat. But maybe they'll do some more with her in the future. Who knows? She didn't make an impact on me one way or the other, I guess I'd say.
There you go. Yeah. Some shout outs to the holographic map that's in the foreground. There's some interesting points of interest for crafty individuals who can zoom in. On the map, there is Federation Deep Space Outpost 36. There is the Talix homeworld, home of Neelix. You have the Kazon clan. You have a Founders homeworld, Cardassia Prime, and the Ankari homeworld. The Ankari homeworld was also in Voyager. They were the ones who gave the Equinox those life forms that enhanced the warp drive. Yeah. So great use of canon. As I understand it, that map actually came about as a result of a fan-made production of stellar cartography maps for Star Trek. Cool. Yeah, and that was by Larry Nemeczek, I believe, who put that together.
Oh, sure, Dr. Trek. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I didn't know that. That's awesome. Yeah, there were a couple of things that were name checked. I think a couple of things in the Gamma Quadrant and Delta Quadrant. So it's clear that there are, even though the sort of core of the Federation seems to still be relegated to this corner of the Alpha Quadrant, the old reach of the Federation extended out quite beyond.
Yes. It will be interesting to see if we go to Bajor, considering the comm badges, the new comm badges, and the uniforms were very Bajoran inspired.
They certainly do ring that. They certainly do ring that aesthetic bell. Hard not to see the similarities between the two. I'm wondering if that's intentional or just accidental.
Yeah, let's hope that it's intentional and we get to visit. I know a lot of fans online are screaming to see what's up with Bajor.
Yeah, I mean, I have to imagine in an era where faster-than-light travel is at a premium, a stable wormhole is even more important.
Exactly. I think I've said it here, or maybe we chatted about it, or maybe I've chatted about it with somebody else, but Deep Space Nine, over the wormhole being able to enact all this travel, Bajor being a prime strategic spot. I'm surprised that Federation Headquarters wasn't there.
Yeah, could also have to do with just sort of the way the collapse happened after the burn.
Sure. Anything else that you want to talk about?
I think we killed it.
We killed it. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to this episode of We Are Starfleet, reviewing and recapping episode 5, Die Trying.
Yeah, excited to see what happens next.
I actually watched the trailer for the next episode.
You broke your... okay.
I did. I wasn't gonna, but then it just... I was watching it on my laptop, and it just popped right up.
Sure.
And I was like, well, too late. Guess
we're in now.
You got me.
Yeah, so we're gonna see Book again.
Yep, I'll be glad to see him and Michael back together. They have a great chemistry, and they work really well together. And I think my prediction here that there will be some kind of catalyst for that will kind of force Michael to choose. Maybe not in this episode, but in a future episode, it will force her to choose between Discovery or Booker.
Yeah, I can see that happening. I think I can see that. Certainly, you can see how that would be a logical way to go in terms of building dramatic tension for her character. It's clear that internally she's still dealing with that conflict because of how she's it might be unfair to say regressed, but she's certainly more at times seeming like a season 1 Michael Burnham when it comes to her attitude towards admirals and command in general and structure, at least outside of Discovery.
Yes, we are a part of the We Made This network of podcasts. You can check that out at WeMadeThisPod.com, where you can find a Lower Decks podcast called Rarely Going and Make It So, a Star Trek Picard podcast. This was a great episode. I can't wait to see where things go from here. Please join in the conversation on Twitter and Instagram at StarfleetPod. Let us know what you think.
Absolutely. Mike, it was a pleasure as always.
Ian, thank you for joining me, and I'll catch up with you on the next one.
Looking forward to it.
We Are Starfleet is a podcast dedicated to Star Trek Discovery and how it relates to the story, ethos, and canon of Star Trek. Join your host, Mike Slammer, as he sits down with guests from all over the world to talk disco. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Starfleet Pod. Follow for more Star Trek podcasts, such as The Sanctuary, a politics and economics of Star Trek pod, Rarely Going, a Star Trek Lower Decks podcast, and Make It So, a Star Trek Picard podcast. We Are Starfleet is produced as part of the We Made This network of podcasts. We Made This brings together popular culture podcasts around film, TV, music, and more that hopefully educate, excite, and don't take themselves too seriously. Check us out at www.wemadethispod.com. Original music composed and performed by Anthony Fuscaldo.